There is a number that has accompanied you since the very beginning of your life. It appears in your documents, in your childhood memories, and on the gravestone that will one day bear your name. It never changes. It is a silent trace of time that witnessed your birth. Yet no one talks about it, no one questions it, no one asks, what does the last digit of my birth year mean? Is it merely a mathematical coincidence, or is it, as Carl Jung believed, a hidden symbol, a clue from the collective unconscious, an energetic sign revealing something fundamental about who you are? For Jung, nothing is accidental. He didn't see numbers as mere digits, but as living symbols filled with archetypes, manifestations of the unconscious that shape our emotions, choices, relationships, and even our traumas. In his view, the outer world reflects the inner one, and time, with its cycles and repetitions, is not just chronology, it is a language. A symbolic language that, once understood, reveals not only what we have lived through, but also who we were meant to become. In this video, we will uncover what the last digit of your birth year reveals about your soul. We will dive into Jungian symbolism, into ancient archetypes, into invisible patterns that repeat across every generation. You were born in a year ending in 0, 1, or 9. This is not just a digit. It is a call from the depths of time. It is an entry point into a specific type of energy that shapes your path, your way of loving, defending yourself, and confronting the world. You may not remember the first moments of your life, but the digit that completed your birth knows what you have yet to discover. And perhaps, by understanding its meaning, you will finally realize why you repeat the same patterns, why you feel what you feel, and why your soul carries a mission you've never been able to explain. Prepare yourself. What we are about to uncover is not numerology, not superficial mysticism, but deep symbolic psychology. It is the wisdom of Carl Jung applied to the most overlooked and perhaps most revealing digit in your biography. You will never look at your birth date the same way again. Those born in a year, ending in 0, carry more than just a neutral number, they carry a portal. 0, in its deep symbolic meaning, is not just a beginning, but what comes before the beginning. It is creative emptiness, the womb of time, the silence that precedes the first sound. For Jung, everything that exists is born from the unconscious, and 0 is the perfect image of this original unconscious. Dark, mysterious, fertile. Those born with this digit carry the energy of Genesis, the potential of what has not yet taken shape, but already pulses with intention. These individuals often feel, from an early age, that they belong to another time. They have a heightened sensitivity to what is yet to come, a quiet intuition that often distances them from the noise of society. These are the ones who unknowingly begin dynasties, who plant seeds whose fruits are harvested by others. They are the silent elders whose gaze supports the entire family. Humble leaders who initiate cycles without seeking recognition. Something ancient lives within them, a formless call, yet unmistakably present. At the same time, being born with a 0 means carrying the burden of uncertainty. The trial of such souls is to face the feeling of inner emptiness which, if not embraced as a strength, can turn into existential longing. These individuals often struggle to find their place, to define themselves, to walk the well-trodden paths. They feel as if they are always beginning anew, yet find it difficult to bring things to completion. And this is not a flaw, it is their nature. These souls are meant to create new paths, not to follow pre-made maps. 0 is the fertile field before the sowing. And those born under this number are the keepers of what has not yet appeared. These are unusual people. They do not live linearly. They follow not chronological time, but the symbolic time of the soul. They are bridges between what has already died and what has not yet been born. And that is precisely why they are so often misunderstood. Carl Jung said that the unconscious, in its essence, is creativity. And those born with a 0 are living manifestations of this primordial creativity. When they find a path where they can create, whether through art, wisdom, spirituality, or caring for others, they become strong. But when they try to fit into narrow frameworks, they fall ill. If you were born with a 0, understand this: your life will not be ordinary. You were not made to repeat. You came to begin, to open space, to remind the world that non-being, when consciously embraced, is the place where everything begins. The number 1 is the first step after the void. It is the beginning of movement, a spark breaking through the darkness, a vital impulse declaring, "I exist." Those born in a year ending in 1 carry this primal force within them. By nature, they are pioneers not only in action but in their inner stance. They go where no one has gone. They think thoughts no one has dared to dream. They break norms not out of rebellion, but because they simply cannot live by someone else's rules. Carl Jung understood the number 1 as an expression of individuality, of rising consciousness beginning to separate from the collective. That's why those who carry this number as a birth sign usually have a strong drive toward autonomy. From a young age, they feel an inner impulse to lead, to question, to make decisions independently. They are restless in the face of conformity and highly sensitive to any form of domination. But the path of the 1 is never easy. To open roads is always harder than to walk them. These individuals often feel alone in their choices. They have to justify every step, every idea, every feeling. And this can lead to deep loneliness, the loneliness of a person walking ahead of their generation, years ahead of their time. In some cases, this energy turns into stubbornness. The 1, when wounded, becomes blindly persistent. And if it does not learn to combine strength with listening, action with introspection, it risks shutting itself off entirely. But when the 1 finds its center, when it realizes that its mission is not to dominate but to illuminate the path with its courage, the person born with a 1 becomes a beacon. This is someone who doesn't wait for the world to change in order to act. They act, and the world changes. They possess the gift of inspiration, show that things can be done differently, and turn doubt into direction. And for this reason, even without realizing it, they carry a responsibility to be an example. If you are born with a 1, your soul is a soul of beginnings. You did not come to repeat patterns. You came to challenge structures. You did not come to ask for permission. You came to open the door. But remember, pioneers need rest too. They need care as well. And above all, they need to learn that being first does not mean being alone. The number 2 is a symbol of the mirror, where the 1 asserts, "I," the 2 introduces the other. It is the number of relationships, polarity, the striving for balance between opposing forces. Those born in a year ending in 2 carry within themselves, consciously or not, the burden and gift of inner duality. These are souls living between extremes, reason and emotion, strength and sensitivity, presence and escape. Their main task is not to choose one side, but to find harmony between them. In Jungian psychology, the 2 represents the beginning of tension between opposites, a fundamental principle on the path of individuation. The core of the self can only manifest when the conflict is accepted. Therefore, those born with the 2 are often introspective, observant, deeply analytical. They feel twice as much, see more than others, carry a sensitivity that allows them to perceive the invisible, the unspoken, that which vibrates beyond form. They are natural diplomats with an innate ability to try on, understand, and sew together differences. At the same time, they can remain paralyzed by choice, chasing approval, trying to please everyone, and losing themselves in the process. This oscillation is both a risk and a path to healing. For a soul marked by the 2, It is important in life to understand that duality is not weakness but wisdom in becoming. That living between worlds is a gift, not a curse. But this is possible only when the two accepts that it does not need to be perfect to be loved, and does not need to have all the answers to move forward. When it embraces its sensitivity as strength, not as a flaw. Many of these people have complicated relationships because they project onto others what they have yet to integrate within themselves. They find it difficult to set boundaries, to choose independently, and to firmly stand their ground. But when they finally understand that balance is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to maintain it consciously, they become guides, therapists, counselors, and healers of connections. For no one understands better than they do the pain of living between conflicting forces. If you were born with a 2, your destiny is not to choose a side, but to move skillfully between them. You are a bridge, you are a seam, you are a feeling soul between opposing forces. And when you stop blaming yourself for feeling too much, you will discover that your greatest pain was actually your greatest capacity to love. The number 3 is the first truly creative number. After the polarity of 2, 3 appears as synthesis, as expression, as the birth of the verb. Those born in a year ending in 3 carry the archetype of the communicator, one who translates the invisible into language, turns feeling into words, and finds form for inner chaos through expression. These are people who, even in silence, carry a restless voice within. A voice that narrates the world, notices details, and needs to speak what it feels in order to understand what it experiences. Jung believed that the psychic symbolic sphere is organized through images and language. 3 embodies that pivotal moment when the inner world begins a dialogue with the outer world. Therefore, those born with the 3 often have a strong connection to art, writing, teaching, speech, music, and creativity in any form. They do not just communicate, they transform what they convey. Their words are not decorative, they are tools for healing, seduction, and creating new realities. But this archetype also carries a challenge: the risk of superficiality. When vulnerable, the 3 uses speech as a defense, talks a lot but feels little, plays with words to hide wounds, and creates stories to avoid facing their pain. Thus, they may live hiding suffering behind apparent ease, like someone distracting themselves from the depth they carry inside. These people need to discover during their lives that words serve not only to conquer others but also to know themselves. That true communication is not about saying what the other wants to hear, but having the courage to speak what the soul screams. When they mature, they become modern oracles, advisors, artists, therapists, and leaders. They connect ideas, inspire the masses, make people feel what they themselves could not name, and do so with such ease that it often conceals the depth of their true essence. If you were born with a 3, know this: your voice has power. You did not come into this world to be silent. You are a verb. You are a bridge between what you feel and what you understand. But remember, speech heals only when it is born from truth. And your mission is not only to captivate but to touch another's soul with your own truth. The number 4 is the first stable structure. It is the square, solid ground, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 seasons. It is the number of organized matter, the foundation on which everything can grow. Those born in a year ending in 4 carry the archetype of the builder. They do not accept vague promises or elusive dreams. It is important for them to see what is real, what can be sustained, what can last long. They have an innate sense of responsibility, stability, and order. And this is not coldness, it is roots. Carl Jung perceived the 4 as a symbol of concrete wholeness. In many mandalas of the unconscious, this number appears as an image of inner balance. Those who carry the 4 as a birth sign strive for security, not only in the external world, but also emotionally. They are the ones who build homes, maintain connections, and care without unnecessary noise. They are not loud people. They are restrained, consistent, and reliable. Their presence is like a quiet wall that holds the house together. But behind this strength lies a challenge, a fear of change. Those born with the 4, when out of balance, become stubborn, cling to the new, and become prisoners of routine in the familiar, a routine that no longer nourishes. Because of excessive attachment to stability, they risk getting stuck in dead structures, staying in relationships out of loyalty rather than love, keeping jobs out of security rather than calling. It is important for them to understand, strength lies not only in what lasts, but also in what has meaning. These people often mature early. They feel they must cope, that they are a support for others, that they cannot fail. Often, the weight of entire families rests on their shoulders. They are those to whom others turn when everything is falling apart, and they support tired, silent, or lonely. Their mission is not small. They came to build structures, connections, values. But they need to learn that even builders have the right to rest, to attachment, to ease. If you were born with the 4, know this: your soul is earth. You came into this world to give shape to what seemed impossible. But remember, to build also means to be able to tear down what no longer serves. You are here not only to erect walls, but to create foundations that sustain life. The number 5 is movement, transition, the moment when balance is disturbed before change. Those born in a year ending with 5 carry the energy of creative restlessness, a relentless search for something they may not always name, but feel they must find. These are people who are never satisfied with the status quo. They always look forward, desiring more meaning, more freedom, more intensity. Jung said that a person is driven by internal tensions, impulses from the unconscious demanding transformation. And 5 is the symbol of those who live in constant dialogue with the new. These souls are gifted with adaptability. They change opinions, plans, cities, professions not out of instability, but because they feel the call of life at every step. For them, the world is too vast to fit into a single form. They are curious, intelligent, broad-minded people. When properly integrated, they become bridges between worlds, between ancient and modern, rational and intuitive, stability and freedom. They connect ideas, styles, cultures, challenge boundaries, break routines, open windows where others see only walls. But the trial for the 5 is not to get lost in their own pace. These are souls who, without finding an inner core, risk constantly running away from themselves, from connection, from commitments. They change so much that they leave no roots behind. They struggle to maintain long processes. They start with enthusiasm but easily become disappointed. Their lesson is to learn to breathe within their own body, to understand that freedom is not the absence of boundaries, but a conscious choice. Many born with 5 suffer from judgment. They are seen as frivolous, inconsistent, hard to understand. But behind this restlessness hides the spirit of a pioneer. They are transformers of eras, harbingers of a new time. They sense before others that something must change. And when they mature, they become creative leaders, innovators, masters of transformation. Their energy is chaotic, yes, but it is fertile chaos, the chaos before rebirth. If you were born with 5, embrace your soul of a wanderer. You were not made to fit in, you were made to explore. But remember, even the wind needs a guide. Your mission is not to run without purpose, but to bring movement where everything is stuck and to teach the world that life is made for constant renewal. The number 6 is a symbol of harmony, inner beauty, unity between what you feel and what you support. For Carl Jung, 6 is associated with the principle of love that accepts, with the archetype of the soul that nurtures, listens, and restores. Those born in a year ending with 6 carry a quiet and profound mission to care for the fragile, both in others and in themselves. These are people with finely tuned sensitivity who notice discomfort in another's eyes even before it is spoken. They have an almost magical emotional intuition and an almost instinctive drive to protect. These souls seek emotional balance. They desire sincere connections, peaceful hearths, and authentic relationships. But this is not always easy, because feeling so deeply, they often live for others, forget themselves to serve, silence their own pains to accept others, adapt to everything to keep the peace even if it harms them. Here lies their main trial, learning that caring for another does not mean abandoning oneself. The archetype of 6 is not only caring but also sacrificing. If this energy is misdirected, such people become prisoners of unbalanced relationships, giving too much, receiving too little, accepting what has long ceased to be theirs, forgiving the unforgivable, confusing love with emotional survival. When this happens, the 6's heart becomes wounded. They start feeling used, drained, tired of carrying others' burdens. Therefore, their key lesson is to set conscious boundaries, not to harden, but to protect themselves from excess. When they mature, those born with 6 become beacons of attachment teachers, therapists, spiritual mothers, loyal friends. They are always there where another is needed, not with noise, but with presence, not with ready advice, but with deep listening. Moreover, by their example, they teach that true love begins with self-care, and that the harmony they seek blossoms only when they are whole, not exhausted. If you are born with 6, know that your soul has invisible arms that embrace. You came into the world to remind that feeling is not weakness, but a gift. But remember, it is not your role to heal the whole world. Your mission is to love consciously and, above all, to love yourself with the same care with which you open to others. The number 7 is the number of introspection, hidden wisdom, and a quiet spiritual path. For Jung, it signifies the soul's call toward what lies beyond matter, toward the invisible, the subtle, the eternal. Those born in a year ending with 7 carry within them a restlessness that is not soothed by simple answers. It is as if from a young age they know there is something beyond the surface of things. These people are naturally deep, observant, and contemplative. They are not satisfied with superficial explanations. They strive to grasp the essence. These souls do not easily fit into the noise of the world. They need silence, calm, and time to reflect on their feelings. They are often seen as distant or cold, although in reality they are connected to inner layers that most ignore. They are the ones who ask questions about the meaning of life from childhood, those fascinated by books, philosophy, spirituality, psychology, and symbolism. For them, life is an exploration of themselves, others, and destiny. Nothing is accidental. Every pain, every encounter, every repetition is a message to be deciphered. But along with this gift comes a challenge, the risk of emotional isolation. One born with the 7 can close off excessively, hide within themselves, become skeptical, suspicious, and even arrogant in their search for truth. They may become someone who understands everything but does not allow themselves to be understood, who sees others through and through but does not let themselves be seen. Their lesson lies in vulnerability, in believing that one can be both spiritual and human, wise and imperfect, deep and loving. When the 7 reaches balance, it becomes a teacher, not in an arrogant sense, but in a sacred one, someone who teaches without words, simply by living with truth. It is a quiet advisor, a friend who can change a life with a single phrase, an old sage who sees meaning in chaos. Its strength lies in its gaze, in the questions it asks, in how it turns confusion into clarity, and above all, in how it always moves toward inner truth. If you are born with the 7, know this: your soul is a temple. You are not here to follow ready-made formulas. You came to question the world and to change yourself in the process. But remember, wisdom without connection to people turns into loneliness. You do not need to leave the world to touch the eternal. It is enough to open your heart and believe that sometimes a simple, sincere embrace heals. The number 8 is a symbol of balance between material and spiritual power. It is infinity lying on its side, a cycle that never breaks, a force that both creates and destroys simultaneously. For Jung, the 8 represents the point where energy gains concreteness without losing connection to the invisible. Those born in a year ending in 8 carry a hidden strength, a presence that commands respect, even in silence. These are people born to transform structures, take responsibility, lead, but to lead with soul, not coercion. These souls possess a natural magnetism. They usually attract attention, trust, and the weight of expectation. From childhood, they feel different. The world demands more from them than from others, and often they accept this role even if they are not yet ready. The 8 carries ancient energy of power. But this can also be a burden, because where there is power, there are always trials. These people go through serious challenges, especially related to justice, authority, and control. Over their lifetime, they need to learn to use their power with wisdom, not as a defense. The main challenge of the 8 is not to get lost in the power game. In imbalance, it can become authoritarian, obsessed with control, materialistic, using power to shield itself from pain. But when awakened, it becomes one of the most transformative archetypes on the human journey. A mature 8 does not seek to dominate but to serve with greatness, to transform systems, heal family legacies, and build paths of truth. It does not fear conflict or chaos. It enters places where no one dares and cleanses the dirt with its own hands. Jung understood power as a manifestation of the shadow. The 8 needs more than anyone else to know its shadow, acknowledge what drives it, what threatens it, and what can corrupt it. For only one who has faced their darkness can wield light responsibly. These souls are called to high positions, to decisions that affect many, yet at the same time they can be the quiet pillars of entire families, those who silently hold everything together. If you were born with the 8, know this: your soul is a column. You came into this world to take on responsibility, destinies, and profound change. But remember, true power is not in control, but in transformation. And only one who has already been transformed by pain can truly transform. The number 9 is the end of a cycle, a sacred completion before a new beginning. It is the number of accumulated wisdom, of mature compassion from a soul that has traveled many paths. Those born in a year ending in 9 carry an ancient, almost spiritual energy. These are people who seem to have lived more than their years. From childhood, they feel the weight of the world on their shoulders, not as oppression, but as a silent responsibility. Jung would say that these souls bear the imprint of the archetype of the inner elder, the master dwelling within each of us who knows that everything passes, everything changes, everything returns. These people possess a deep sensitivity to collective suffering. They suffer not only because of their own pain, but also because of others. They are moved by social issues, injustice, and the pain of others. They have the gift of sincere listening, empathy, and a presence that comforts without words. Often, they become therapists, mentors, teachers, spiritual leaders, even without consciously seeking it, for their energy leads them to this path. 9 is a symbol of giving, and those who carry it intuitively know that life gains meaning when you serve something greater. But the challenge for these souls is the ability to let go. 9 is surrounded by farewells. Friends leave, stages end, relationships change, and often this causes pain. To love deeply also means to suffer intensely. 9 must understand that endings are not losses, but openings for something new, that letting go is not failure, but maturity. and that their mission is not to hold on, but to complete what needed to be passed through. Many born with the 9 experience great changes in life, changing paths, professions, identities, overcoming significant losses. But each of these trials shapes them, cleanses them, awakens them. And when they look back, they understand that every pain was an initiation, that every loss is a portal, and that now, even without planning, they become an example of what the world has lost the dignity to live deeply. If you were born with the 9, embrace your calling. You are not here to stay, but to consciously complete and leave with ease. You are an old soul, a bridge between endings and new beginnings, and everything you touch, you transform not with force, but with presence, not with haste, but with wisdom. True awakening happens when you realize that your mission is to complete what others could not finish. You were born in a year, but that year was not just a date, it was a symbol, a signature of time, a whisper of the collective unconscious saying, "This soul has come with a specific mission." Carl Jung taught us that life is constantly speaking to us, not in words, but in symbols and numbers we carry, in cycles we go through, in repeating patterns. All of it is the language of the soul. When you look closely at the last digit of your birth year, something unfolds before you, something you may have always known but couldn't put into words, a trait of your essence, a clue to your path. This is not about superstition or fortune-telling, it's about awareness. If you heard each of these descriptions and something inside you shifted, don't ignore it. Perhaps it was your soul finally acknowledged, maybe an ancient piece of you whispering, "Now you understand." And when we understand, we are freed from the guilt of not fitting in, freed from the pressure to be like everyone else, freed from the illusion of being lost, even though we have always followed an invisible compass. Your journey has meaning, your number matters, and your time has a rhythm only you can hear. If this video spoke to you, leave a comment with your number, whether you recognized yourself in the described archetype, which part of your story resonated with the words you heard here. I want to know you, I want to hear your experience, because when we share, wisdom does not diminish, it multiplies. If you believe this content can help others better understand themselves like this video, send it to someone special. Share it with those who are also seeking self-discovery. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, yet subscribe now. This journey is directed inward, and with each step, we discover that what seemed like coincidence was a call, because in the end, perhaps the question isn't, "What number am I?" but "What has this number been trying to tell me since the day I was born?"